Well, that happened. Watkins Glen is an unforgiving track that chews up cars and spits them out. And that's what happened here. The climbing S's in particular are a very dangerous area. There's no room for error, certainly not anything that you can't correct within the bounds of the driving surface. And this was no exception. So pretty bummed, but also pretty happy. Overall, could have been much, much worse, both for myself and for the car. Only the front is damaged, and yeah, it's pretty severe, or at least considered moderate. But the rest of the car is intact. The engine wasn't touched. Didn't leak any fluids, surprisingly. So all in all, really consider myself lucky, and getting ready to move on, and really bummed that I have to dump a lot more time into this thing. It was pretty much ready to just be used all year, and just do basic maintenance on it unless something broke. And yeah, something broke for sure. So anyways, I'll include the in-car video that I do have, but that leads me to kind of the debrief, looking at the footage and the data from the AIM Solo, but mostly from the dash cam. Huge shout out to Henry and the rest of the Genesee Valley crew of instructors. Jay, the chief instructor, but also Bill, who's retired from chief instructor, and a handful of others that gave me a bunch of their time to look at everything and review it and kind of see what went wrong. And later on, I'll go over that in maybe a little more detail, so somebody else may pick up a tip from it and learn from this experience. So yeah, definitely really happy to have had it happen while at a GVC event. You don't want it to happen at all, but if it's going to happen, they got a really, really great group of guys there, and gals, that are extremely knowledgeable, very detail orientated, and will definitely, work through anything with you. Hopefully not from an accident, but even just anything that you need to work on track. I'm also humbled by the number of people that came up to see me, or that I talked to shortly after, or a little later in the day, just make sure that I was okay, and kind of share some sentiment about being bummed, but mostly just being happy that everything is good with me, and I didn't have to get checked out or anything. Definitely got lucky, like I said, with the speed of the impact was probably around 20 miles an hour. But speaking of safety, I never even had a chance to make a little short video for the new safety that I added to the car, including the seats and harnesses and the roll bar. And to go along with all that, I bought a Hans and was obviously wearing that when the accident happened. So very, very fortunate that I was strapped in and had the right safety gear on. I had absolutely zero issues after the fact. Even today is the day after. Zero soreness or anything. Just totally, completely fine. And I definitely attribute some of that to having the Hans device on. As far as my neck goes, like, I didn't even get any kind of whiplash at all. So I can't stress enough how important it is to either have a Hans if you have harnesses, or the hybrid or hybrid S, I can't remember which one it is, whichever one is able to be used with 4-point harnesses, or basically stock seats. Highly, highly, highly recommend having one of those if you're going to go on any track, but in particular a track like Watkins Glen that has a penchant for wrecking cars. Even if it's a slower impact like this, I definitely would have had an issue last year with just the Schroth 4-point harnesses that I had, because I did not have a neck device up until this year. So like I said, just it's worth it. Just go ahead and spend the money, save the money, and buy something that you can use for on track. All right, enough of the sob story and all that kind of sappy stuff. Let's look at the damage and see if it's savable. As you can probably already see, the horns are bent pretty substantially. And when you get a closer look, talking about the core damage here to the body and the frame, this horn got kinked pretty hard, and that pulled in pretty much, I think, up into like this region in here. I mean, clearly right here that's bent, and a little higher is pulled in as well. But as far as over in here, this part, and like the strut tower and where the subframe bolts at the bottom, where that's actually bolted onto the frame or the body, I think that's where the damage stops. So it's really from in front of the strut tower forward here, just severely bent to the right, but also down a little bit, which is interesting. I noticed that, and that kind of transfers all the way across. There's a little bit of a dip on that side too, where it just kind of got like pushed that way, and like this is kind of what it seems like to me. So definitely needs to go on a frame machine. I have a friend that is experienced with that, and his shop is next to another shop that has a frame machine that he has an agreement to use with that many times. So he'll tell me whether it's even worth it, or if on this side maybe we can cut out some sections and weld in some new stuff. I definitely can source the steel, from another E39 that's getting parted. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I think there's options here. We'll find out more at some point here, hopefully as soon as possible, because I know that if anything can be repaired on this body, that's going to be the biggest lead time, the biggest time suck to get completed. There's a ton of other smaller things that need to be repaired before they can even be bolted back on. But bolting everything together, that's really not a big deal. I mean, we're talking about if I had all the parts and, let's say all the damaged parts are taken off, everything's all straightened out, and I have all the new parts ready to go in, this is like an afternoon of work. Maybe that's, a little optimistic, because I know some extra stuff will have to come off that I'm not considering, but really a weekend to put the front end back together, it's not that big of a deal. But we'll see. Leading up to that will certainly be a lot of time, a lot of labor. A lot of stuff got damaged, or not, I don't think outright broken too much. This tube got damaged, the tab broke off. Not sure if that can be repaired, but I'll come up with a solution for this. I'm not too concerned. It did get poked, unfortunately, and I can't tell for sure if it went all the way through, but that can be fixed as well. The water shields, or this is part of the water shield for the intakes to block the rain and the water from getting on the filter. That can be all straightened out, and race car doesn't need to be perfect. This bent, looks like, oh, you could probably hammer that straight, but these core supports are a dime a dozen, so it's not worth anyone's time, certainly not mine or a body shop's time, to try to straighten it. So that can just get replaced. This plastic here got even more broken. Easy enough to just make a new one from a used piece, because if you guys remember, I hacked off like this all all of this down here used to be this shroud, but we hacked it off across the top here for better airflow since there's no fan here anymore anyways. So it's not needed. So hinted earlier at the fact that it didn't leak. I'm super happy, super lucky. The radiator seems fine. The power steering cooler is definitely fine. Oil cooler is definitely fine. I think at least one oil line I'm gonna have to remake, because as you see, this got pushed back, this got pushed down and over, and because of that, you can see there's no serpentine belt here. That's because that oil cooler line was contacting the alternator, and that caused the belt to, I think, start to ride off, and then it got cut and ripped and then threw itself off. And it wore into the line a little bit, but I think it's just into the braid. I don't think, or I'm sorry, into the nylon, not into the steel braid. So I don't think that really got affected, but still gonna take a closer look, and most likely I'll just replace it. It's not that big of a deal to make a new one. A little bit of money, sure, but I'd rather not have a cooler or oil cooler line blow while driving this thing in the future. So better safe than sorry. So moving on to the other side here. A lot less damage. Mostly just everything shifted over to the right. The headlight did break up here on one of the mounts, but this mount's good. And I'll look at the bottom ones, but like it's still secure. So I might be able to save this headlight. The other one was just destroyed, and we ripped it out in the garage to get access to the hood pins, or better access, so we could get the hood to pop, because the hood was jammed, as you would expect. So moving on down here, really everything stayed intact. It just kind of got pushed, and maybe a broken rivet or two. Nothing too concerning though, so that's good. Now this plastic kind of got jammed up. This tube is jammed in here, so definitely things got pushed, like I said, kind of down and slightly back here, because this is a little twisted. But that will straighten out on the frame machine, again, assuming that everything is worth pulling. I think this stuff, for the most part, should be fine. Can just get it straightened out. This is just a bracket here, which is also something I could just get another one. It has to be custom cut for this to fit through here, but not a big deal. The good news about all of this is that besides the front bumper cover and the skid plate, pretty much everything else is generic E39. So with that, I've already picked up some new parts. Here we go. It's been 24 hours and I already have a left fender, that plastic on the left side, the crash bar, because that got bent for sure, a new core support, and that plastic in the front that I can cut up, new shocks, bumper shocks as well. So I already picked up that stuff, and then I brought the car back to where I store stuff, and realized that I actually already had a fender. I wasn't sure if it was a left or a right, so I picked that one up anyways. But now I have two left fenders, and I forgot that I had a skid plate. So if for some reason this one that was collected in the yard sale is not usable, because more tabs did break on it, if for some reason I can't use it, then I do have a backup. But yeah, so a lot of this stuff is the yard sale that the generous Watkins Glen crew collected and brought back to the garage for me. Appreciate those guys too. They work hard and they clean this stuff up in like no time flat to get the track back open. Again, fortunately, I didn't leak any fluid on the track. So you're welcome, guys. So what else do we need? Definitely another pork chop and mostly repairs though. I have to thank John. He's a GVC CCA member. He is the one that hooked me up with these parts right away. Fortunately, he lives halfway between Watkins Glen and Buffalo. So on my way back today, I swung by and he had pretty much all this stuff out and ready for me. He's been parting out E39, so if you're looking for an M62 or a 6-speed swap or maybe even a 5-speed swap, I'm not sure. I know he had at least one inline 6 car there, but most of the time he has 540s that he's parting out in addition to E38s. That's what he's really known for, is parting out E38s and helping the community keep other cars on the road. So thanks to John for hooking me up with that stuff. And I'm sure there'll be some odds and ends that I'll need from a front end as well. But that should be it as far as any kind of big parts, besides, again, this frame damage. So that's really the big unknown. That's the biggest thing and the biggest unknown. Second to that is, unfortunately, this hood seemed like it was not unscathed, but pretty easily repairable until I was taking the hood pins out and I noticed that that pin obviously got shoved sideways and it broke the fiberglass on the inside, and that reinforcement plate is just kind of sitting in here like, it's broken. So I need to talk to my body guy and then potentially maybe a boat guy, someone with experience with fiberglass, to tell me hopefully that it can be repaired. I don't care if it's ugly. I just need it to hold the hood pin straight. And realistically, the hood pin, it's got to hold the hood down, but there's not a lot of force there. So hopefully that can be fixed. Where do we go from here? What's the plan? The plan is see if we can get this plus or minus track car straight, so that everything will bolt together and be reasonably straight. Obviously, at some point I'll have to get it on an alignment rack as well, just to make sure it's going to track straight still and that it just didn't get totally foobar. I don't think that's the case, but you never know, and I'm not a body guy, so we'll see. Just like that, car's back together. Definitely took some effort, but was able to get the frame straightened at the frame shop, and the same guys painted the new aftermarket bumper and a used fender that I already had, that I mentioned previously. I had a new headlight lens laying around and got a pair of buckets like the rest of the headlight, and then swapped over this lens and obviously installed that new one, and got the headlights together, got the core support in, the new one. Already cut a new intake grill here, and everything else back together and straight, and certainly straight enough to be workable. It looks pretty good. This corner is the only, I guess I'll call it, struggle that I had. The gap here is really tight for the headlight to slide in here. Something is still just not quite right. Either this is tipped down a little, or maybe this horn is slightly up, which is pushing the crash bar slightly up. That's probably the more likely scenario. So this space is pretty tight. I had to pull out, there's a piece of weather strip that goes on the bumper around here between the bumper and the headlight. I had to pull that out to help make it fit, and a little bit of other finagling to get it to work, but it's in, and I hope I never have to take that headlight out again. Moving along here, got everything back together, the oil lines and the intakes. This blue line is replaced. See the picture snapshot. I ended up having enough leftover line from when I first built these to just reuse these fittings and that leftover piece and make that new line. So I got super lucky there. New serpentine belt on, and obviously everything reconnected and bled out. And so far so good. Had, like I said, some minor fitment issues. Nothing's perfect, but I didn't expect it to be, nor did I request that the body shop take the time to try to make it, perfect or close to perfect. I just wanted them to make it usable, and that was accomplished. So happy with that. As I suspected, that was a long lead time. They basically got the car back 2 months to the day of the accident, got it back from the frame shop, and then started putting it back together. Needed to wait another 2 weeks to get the bumper and fender back. As most shops are, they were super busy, and I'm very fortunate that they squeezed it in for me, and they did a really nice job on the paintwork, really better than this track car deserves. But they don't change their quality just because I'm gonna use it as a track car. So really happy with the way the paint turned out, even the match. Camera's not gonna do it justice, and I actually haven't had it out in the sunlight yet, but the color seems to be pretty darn close. So again, really happy with the way that turned out. Got all the trim and grills and everything back in. We're just at the stage now where I need to get the skid plates mounted, which is definitely going to take a little work. I know the mount brackets are all bent up, so I'm going to have to try to straighten those so that I can get this main engine skid plate on. Certainly not imperative. It does keep a lot of debris and water in particular out of the engine bay. So I am planning to get these back installed. Same with these pork chops, there's one of them. Those have to go on. The transmission skid plate, that's easy, nothing got bent with that. That's just off for working on it. But get those back on, and that'll do it. Okay, it's all back together. Was able to get those last remaining pieces on, and the track wheels are on, and was able to pull a favor with Mr. Best Wrench on Grand Island and get the car over there for an alignment check, or four-wheel alignment, and re-corner balance the car. I wasn't able to get that done since I took more weight out of it over the winter, so I was glad to have them take a peek at it, and we did need to make some adjustments for that, but fortunately no adjustments were needed to the alignment because of the accident, so that's good news there. There was no evidence that anything was affected, so that's the good news. And like I said, we are ready for the track with 3 days to spare until the GVC August event at Watkins Glen, and we're ready to go. A little bit nervous to get back out there, but I'm sure I'll work through it, get used to the new settings in the car. I'm going to make another short video on the suspension changes that I made, and kind of review that or go over that a little bit. So I'll have to get used to that, but hopefully I can get back in the groove and go back to work. See you guys there.